Well, hello and thank you for joining me for another Alex on Tech and iTWire TV video interview. I'm joined once again by Geoff Schomburgk, the Vice President for Asia Pacific and Japan at Yubico, and he spends his days thinking about credential theft, phishing-resistant authentication, and the soft spot that attackers love most. Geoff, welcome back to iTWire TV.
Thank you, Alex. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. So, Geoff, can you please explain Yubico's mission again in brief and the value you bring to customers in 2026?
Well, our mission remains pretty simple. It's to make the internet a safer place for everybody, protecting the digital you. So we're moving more and more online in everything that we do, and that presents us. We're about to go into some detail here. Opportunities for scammers and bad guys to do bad things. Well, we're all as a company motivated to stop that and protect everybody in their digital world.
So, Geoff, the World Cup is a global obsession, and Australia's growing football base means that more local fans than ever are buying tickets, booking flights online, and chasing merch. So, why does an event of this scale turn into such an irresistible target for cyber criminals? And how early in the cycle do the scams really start?
Yeah, it's irresistible because of its scale, and it's in a very, very short period of time. So urgency is something that scanners really like to feed off. So we're all desperate. We want to go to the ticket. We want the latest shirt or cap or whatever. And there's a degree of urgency and desperation. So with that urgency, that's what the attackers want to feed off. How early does it start? As soon as tickets are on sale. We've seen various sporting events here in Australia that sell out quickly. So people don't want to miss out. So the minute that activities become online and available, that's when the bad guys are ready to pounce.
And I'll bet there are even events that are pre-sales before the tickets open up. We're selling you a ticket way in advance because you get the best price, but it's also the best opportunity for the scammer to scam you.
Yep, yeah, it's an opportunity that's too good to miss. So playing on that urgency, that desperation, that passion that we have for events like the World Cup is what we want. I want to be there. I want to be part of it, and I don't want to miss out. That urgency and desperation actually drops your guard a bit, and that's what the attackers will play on.
Now, AI has rewritten the phishing playbook. What does an AI-generated scam aimed at an Aussie World Cup fan actually look like in 2026? And how is it different from the clunky, typo-ridden emails that we used to laugh at a few years ago?
Yes, well, AI has really turbocharged these phishing attacks. It makes it more real, more convincing, more personalized. And instead of just clunky old text messages, we're now feeding in other forms. So voice, and I've experienced some really, really convincing voicemails from people, and often video as well. So we've got the multimedia approach that, again, it makes it more convincing. And that's what lures people in.
FIFA's official ticketing platform, like most online services, still leans on passwords. Why are passwords such a soft target during high-demand events? And what actually happens inside an account once an attacker gets in? Is it ticket transfers, payment fraud,
Yeah.
identity theft, or all of the above?
Yeah. Well, we know that passwords are a pain, and they can be easily hacked. And in Australia, there's been many high-profile data breaches, so our credentials are probably already leaked onto the dark web. So if we're relying on username and password alone, there's a high probability that the scammers have already got that and can simply log in. What is their motivation? Primarily, it's money. Phishing is a service, phishing is a business, and people, they feed their families based on how successful they have been. But I don't think it's just that. There's also harvest that and perhaps use it later for more damage down the track. But primarily, the attackers are really looking from a financial gain.
Passkeys and hardware security keys are rightly getting pitched as the password killer. In plain English for iTWire readers who will have to explain this to their parents, for example, why are they so much harder for scammers to crack than a password plus an SMS code?
Yeah. In plain English, passkeys are, they're designed so that users can't be tricked into giving up their credentials. There's quite a bit of technology behind that, but that's the essence of it. And one of the key elements of that is the concept of user presence. So having to physically have something, be that a biometric, your face or your fingerprint, or a physical security key that the scammers don't have, that means that they can't continue to do that, access your account. So that's, in simple terms, that's what makes passkeys the way forward for all the authentication that we do. And we often talk about passkeys as the seatbelt moment for authentication. Remember when we didn't have to wear a seatbelt, and then seatbelts became optional? Well, today they're just the way we go. You hop into a car, you put your seatbelt on. And I think in the future, because the technology is phishing resistant, that we will see that log in with a passkey and then you go and do. So that seatbelt moment is hopefully where we will get to in the authentication world.
Yeah, well, just a bit of extra colour on that. Yeah, seatbelts were optional and now they're mandatory. And I've just been reporting on the various radio shows that I do that Microsoft is starting to phase out SMS two-factor authentication completely and moving towards enforcing passkeys. So we're really seeing this from the big players, and I'd see it on Facebook and Google. I mean, there's a real push to get you to move to passkeys. And of course, it's one thing to have that on your phone or your computer. It's another thing to actually have the physical Yubikey, and we'll talk about that in more detail in a moment. But that shift, that seatbelt moment is definitely unfolding before us.
Indeed, and that's what drives us in the Yubico team every day.
Yeah. Now let's talk merch and accommodation. Counterfeit jerseys and too good to be true short stay listings are already popping up. So what are the concrete red flags an Aussie fan should look for before handing over their card details? And which payment methods give them the most protection if it all goes sideways?
Yeah. In short, if it looks too good to be true, it probably is. We know that events like the World Cup rely heavily on sponsors and sponsorships, and a lot of companies are paying a lot of money to have their name up in lights at events like this, and they want to see the return on that investment. So, to buy the jersey or the cap or the T-shirt, it might seem expensive, and so if you're looking, there's a better deal. If it looks too good to be true, it probably is. And so really the best way of protecting is to buy through those official channels that give you some degree of consumer protection.
And look, I've seen media reports that one of the failings of FIFA 2026 in the US is that the ticket prices are just too high. And the justification for this is that, if we have them too cheap, they'll be snapped up by all of the ticket scalpers and resold for higher prices anyway. But it's cold comfort for a football fan that wants to go, and then it's just all too expensive. And in fact, we see social media resale deals as being a real minefield. And we have platforms like Facebook Marketplace, Instagram, and TikTok being fertile ground for World Cup scams. So what's your blunt advice to a fan who's been offered a half price or cheaper ticket in a DM?
If it looks too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah.
Simple as that. These platforms, they're pervasive. We all have access to them, so that's a good thing. But oftentimes they bypass that verification process and they avoid the safeguards that are there through the official channels, which allows it to people to say, "Oh, I'm getting a good deal." Well, for events like this, you're probably not going to get the good deal. And so my thoughts on that is, don't spoil your enjoyment of the event by trying to save a few dollars. And you'll be spending more time internally fighting yourself about how upset you are that you've been scammed a few $100s, and you'll miss the Socceroos winning their way through to the final. So we enjoy the moment and don't be worried by saving a few dollars or potentially being scammed. That's the really bad thing.
Yeah, and of course it may be a few $1,000s, not just a few $100s, especially when you factor in the cost of flights and accommodation. I mean, you might be there and not be there, which is going to be the ultimate sort of tragedy.
That would be a terrible outcome.
Yeah. And I do see on platforms like Airbnb, I mean, these warnings, please do not transact outside of the platform. If they try and move you onto WhatsApp or some other form of messaging outside of the system, I mean, that's a giant red flag all in itself. Now, multi-factor authentication is now table stakes, but not all MFA is created equal. SMS codes are being phased out, as we just spoke about with Microsoft. We have authenticator apps as well, push prompts, pass keys, and hardware keys. So which actually stops a determined phisher and which gives Aussies a false sense of security?
Yeah. So it's a broad term, MFA, and any form of MFA is better than just a username and a password, but not all MFA is created equal. And many of those that you mentioned, what we call legacy forms of MFA, can be phished. And the only ones that we're moving to, that seatbelt moment, is to move everybody towards phishing-resistant forms of MFA. And passkeys is the term that the industry is adopting. And that's really the way that we want everyone to move. They're great. They remove the vigilance from the user because the technology stops you going off to a fake website. And so that is one of the real strengths of the technology that gives you that confidence. And saying with urgency, you drop your guard. Well, let the technology do the job for you. So passkeys, that's the best way forward, and that's the seatbelt moment. And in 5 years, 10 years time, we won't even be talking about this, hopefully.
Yeah, well, I hope so. And look, we've spoken in the past about how passkeys and physical hardware keys like the Yubico keys are being used in education, which is getting that level of knowledge about passkeys right down to the youth, who are then trained from an early age to demand this sort of protection. And we also saw in the last couple of days that Yubico has launched some new hardware keys. So can you briefly please tell us about those?
Yeah, look, it's the most recent launch has been what we call our FIPS series, stands for Federal Information Processing Standard. It's more of a government requirement, but it brings a certain level of security to those secure transactions. And there's a new iteration of that FIPS standard. For those that are interested, it's 140-3 from 140-2. And we've just launched our 140-3 version, so it's compliant with the latest version of that FIPS standard. So we're pretty excited to have that out there, one of the first in the market with that. There'll be, hopefully, watch this space, there'll be some further developments in our product suite coming along.
And with hardware security keys like Yubico, I mean, people who are in business, who are in enterprises, they can speak to their IT staff and effectively request one and say that they want that extra security. If a consumer is watching this video right now, just an everyday user, and they'd like to get a Yubico key so that they can log into their Gmail, their Facebook, other services, Microsoft, more easily, what's the best place for them to go to buy a Yubikey?
Yep. So our website, yubico.com, we have our own web store where you can buy keys, but there are many resellers out there, and we've got a list on our website as well of certified resellers where you can buy them ones and twos for mums and dads and the family, as well as larger scale for big enterprise and government as well. But the list of resellers on our website is probably a good place to start.
Yeah. I'll put the link in the article that accompanies this video, but it's yubico.com, yubico.com.
Correct.
Now, just to conclude, if you could pin one piece of advice to every Australian fan's phone screen between now and the opening match, what would it be? And what's the one habit you want them to keep long after the final whistle?
Yeah. First piece of advice, enjoy. Watch the events and watch the Socceroos do really, really well. I'll be doing that. But the peace of mind that comes from implementing phishing-resistant MFA, so that with that peace of mind, you can enjoy the event. So buy from all of your activities associated, buy it through the official channels, use phishing-resistant MFA wherever you can. That would be my one piece of advice. And then going forward, keep that habit going. As you said, all of the major platforms that we use are now supporting passkeys. We're seeing more and more services in Australia supporting them. The likes of Telstra, Qantas support these, MyGov, etc. So it's becoming more and more available. So wherever you see passkeys as an option, sign up and keep yourself safe online.
Yeah, I'm now starting to notice when websites are not offering multi-factor authentication, and it's like, am I really okay with this? Shouldn't this website be giving me this option? So the death of passwords is effectively here. It's accelerating, and
it's not a painful death, but I think we're getting there.
Yeah, we're finally getting there, and with with AI making deep fakes so much more convincing. I mean, you just can't tell them from the real life anymore. This is becoming critically urgent. So, look, Geoff Schomburgk, the Vice President for Asia Pacific and Japan of Yubico, thank you so much for taking the time. And go the Socceroos.
Go Socceroos. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you. Bye bye.